Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S, and we are here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, Season 2, Episode 23. So, with that, as we usually do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put down the comments, the show topics for today, as well as there's some special things for today I wanted to add on with things. First being that we have an anniversary that I did not get to celebrate. So clap it up, y'all. It has been 1 year that we've been doing What's the Word Wednesdays. So shout outs to What's the Word Wednesdays and everyone's participation and community that they have brought to coming here. So had to at least get that there. So happy anniversary, What's the Word Wednesdays. Happy anniversary to you. And with that, appreciate all those who will end up coming and seeing this, whether it is going to be now or later on Instagram and YouTube. If you're going to be watching this later on YouTube, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for your boy, because we on a road to 1,000 subscribers. So please join the community so that I can continue to drop these videos and things for you. But with that, y'all, when y'all come in, let me know how y'all feeling, how y'all doing, and what's the word. Yes, what we got in here going on? What's going on, Chris? Fam, how are you doing? What's the word? Good to see you in here. He's doing a little bit of celebrating real quick when it came to What's the Word Wednesdays. And it's been a year. It's been a year since we've done these things. And I want to say this out here on the stream now is I appreciate you, Chris, for coming on and doing what you do, and especially first season basically being the unofficial co-host. So thank you so much for supporting and being a part of this community for What's the Word Wednesdays. That's from me to you. So thank you so much. As well as y'all let me know how I sound too, and if I am either too high, too low, whatever it may end up being. But we are here, y'all. And with today's episode, I'll get in and I'll tell you the topics actually after we do the show song. Doing a little different today, but it's all good. So let's go ahead and get these things started, and we'll be talking about the topics when we get in there on them. So let us pop in the show song. And if you know it, sing along. If you don't, it's all good. You learn it eventually. But people come around, they be asking and they wondering how they doing. So we tell them, go something like this. What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? Tell them like, what's the word? What's the word? What you heard? We gotta know, yeah, what's the word? Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S, and we are here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 23. So, with that, y'all, I appreciate everyone that is here in the comments right now, as well as those who are watching now or later on Instagram and YouTube. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for your boy. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so join the community and let's keep this going as I drop this content. Now, for today's episode, we have 3 different topics like we usually do. First one is always the same, which we're going to be getting into current events, is the news portion. And then second, we're going to be jumping into the topic of safety versus risk and diving more into it. And lastly, we're going to get into the topic talking about finding options in a hopeless situation. So, with that, before I jump into the news, we're going to do a quick little check to make sure things are going well when it comes to the video itself. And then we're going to do the news. So let us see if everything is going all well. With that, yep. All right, just had to do a quick check. Might hear some in the background, but we are good, y'all. All right, so with that, let us get into today's news. All right, so with the news reports today, we're gonna be going over more health and pandemic news concerning the virus and such, more updates, as well as we're gonna be talking about a few things that are happening within the House and the Senate, more so really the Senate in the government, as well as wanted to talk more about, also there's this thing about things happening in space. So that's what I got for today for the news. So with that, let's jump into the first news report, and the headline is from the Deseret News. Headline reads, "The Delta variant may create the final wave in the U.S., experts say." Once again, when we do this, we read 2 paragraphs and we're out. So, article reads, "The current surge of the coronavirus from the Delta variant might be the final wave of COVID-19 cases in the United States," Dr. Scott G. told CNBC on Monday. What's going on, Master J? Peace and one love. Welcome. What's the word? Let me know what's going on. So let's see. Is Delta the end of COVID-19? Well, let's see. In cases from here in the news report, it says, "I don't think COVID is going to be epidemic at all through the fall and the winter. I think that this is the final wave, the final act, assuming we don't have a variant emerge that pierces the immunity offered by prior infections or vaccinations." This is what Dr. Scott was speaking about earlier. This is his comments on this. This is probably going to be the wave of infection that ends up affecting the people who refuse to get vaccinated, he added. So we are still trying to come up and figure out if there is more variants, then that is what will pierce through. This is going from Dr. Scott G. I don't want to say his last name because I am going to butcher it, but this is what's happening here, y'all. So there might be a final wave from this Delta unless there are more strands or more variants that pop out of it. What's going on, Shanice? Peace and love to you. Appreciate you coming up in here. What's the word to you? We're just doing news right now. So that's the first news topic, again, with health and the pandemic. Next one, again, we're going a little bit more on it. With all of that being said, because of this might be the final wave from that particular doctor, just as an expert in the field, this is another article from, again, CBS. And the article title reads, "The Delta variant worsens COVID summer surge despite increased first dose vaccinations." What's going on, Kundan? Peace and love. Welcome. What's the word? Let us know, y'all. Let me know. So, we'll see what it means by, but basically it's surging after the first dose of vaccinations. So let's see. Article reads, "The U.S. is facing a worsening coronavirus outbreak amidst a Delta variant surge. As CBS News' Janet Solomon reports some hospitals are overwhelmed yet again. Then, emergency medicine physician Dr. Anand Swunamiath, I'm saying this all wrong, joins CBSN's Elaine Q to discuss the day's coronavirus headlines, including a plan to authorize booster shots for immune-compromised people. So, from this one, they are speaking on how, because of this big wave coming from the Delta variant, we are having this increase of doses, and now they are making a whole thing to have booster shots when it comes to those for immune compromised. And shouts out to the brother 93 Tell Thriftfinity. Peace and love to you, my G in here. Shouts out to you. Let me know how you feeling, what you're doing, and what's the word. You know it. And so, with that, we're speaking on those doses. The next article, and I'm going to get into y'all comments. I see them. I got y'all. Don't worry. Appreciate y'all putting in your thoughts and telling me what's going on. This is the news portion, and that's what it's about. So, we have more on that when we talked about that third dose from the other one for those who are immune compromised. This is an article from ABC News, and the headline reads, FDA poised to authorize third vaccine dose for immune compromised people. Sources. So these are sources that are saying this. So let's see what this article reads, and we go in. So, article reads, the Food and Drug Administration is planning to authorize a third shot for immune-compromised on Thursday. Two sources familiar with the plan confirmed to ABC News. If the FDA green lights the additional shots, first reported by NBC News, it is up to the advisory committee on immunization practices, the Center of Disease for Disease Control, CDC, expert panel to make its own recommendations on who should get the shot and what factors they might want to consider. Those recommendations are typically adopted by the CDC as nationwide public health guidance, and the ACIP is scheduled to meet on Friday, though it is not currently scheduled to vote. So, with this idea of having a third dose for those who are immune compromised, there are going to be more rollouts of what the plans will be from there now on. And this comes from, of course, information on the rising surges of the Delta variant, as well as talks in the past about booster shots and etc. So, that is also to this article and to the point of everything else that is here. With all of this, make sure you're taking note and putting these down so you can go back and forth to see this information. Now, before I get to the next thing, let's jump in these comments. So we got from Kundan. It said, NY Governor Cuomo resigned after sexual harassment and assault allegations from 11 women. Yes, I did see that, and I appreciate you sending me a message to check that out. So I have that. We're going to get into that later too, and you can add more to that. Got Master J, Delta variant surge. This crap is getting loony. Bruh. Again, you take everything in with a grain of salt. You have the news reports, you have your eyes, you have your perspective, you have everything else that is happening around you. You make the assessment and you see what works right for you or what does not. So just know that that is the case when it comes to things, okay? So, next thing, increase of doses and boost, because yes, that's what's going on here, and they're trying to dead a lot of this so that there will be no more variants to emerge from this. But we will see. A lot of this stuff still has not been studied for long-term usage and long-term effects. So we will see openly how a lot of this stuff will ultimately affect it. What's going on, Cuzzo? Good to see you in the building. Prolific with the hands. Peace and love. Welcome. What's the word? Wednesdays. Let me know how you doing, how you feeling, and what's the word. So, with that, y'all, on to the next thing. And I thought it was a very interesting point to also add with this is for those, and this is gonna be a specific college that I'm gonna do this right now. Is this title? This article comes from NPR, and the title reads, "Being unvaccinated for COVID will cost students at a small college an extra $750. So, let's see. We'll get into the article, 2 paragraphs, and then we out. So, article reads, West Virginia Wesleyan College won't require students to be vaccinated against COVID-19 while they arrive for classes this month. But the small Christian liberal arts school says it will charge a hefty $750 fee for anyone who hasn't received at least a first shot." Okay? The private college, who has about 1,500 students, says about 90% of faculty and staff and a large percentage of students have already been vaccinated. However, students who do not show proof of vaccination by September 7th will incur the fee, according to the college's website. For the college to truly return to a new normal and deliver a high-quality educational experience, we encourage all of our students, faculty, and staff to get vaccinated, the college says. So, if you live in West Virginia and you go to Wesleyan College, just know that if you choose to, or in this case, you don't choose to, you will have, on top of all of your college fees, another fee for not being vaccinated. I just wanted to add that in there. It's just an interesting thing to put with that, since a lot of this is going on. And with that, talking about schools, for those in California, like myself, and I've talked about it before, but now they've made it official now. There is speculation behind the school district and those leading to require vaccinations. Now, this comes from Bloomberg, the article, and the headline reads, "Third dose in U.S. California's teacher mandate. Virus update." So, article reads, California became the first U.S. state to require that all teachers and school personnel get vaccinated or undergo weekly testing. U.S. health officials stepped up calls for pregnant women to get vaccinated as new evidence shows no risk of miscarriage. So it's fully loaded in there. So we have California requiring for teachers, staff, and school personnel to get vaccinated or undergo all the testing weekly. And then those women that are pregnant and have a child, or about to have a child, should also get the shots as well too. I'll read one more and then we out. Regulators in the county are poised to approve the third vaccine dose for people who are compromised with their immune systems, according to NBC News. In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis reaffirmed his decision to ban school districts from instituting mask mandates as students begin classes. So there's a number of different news things going in this article, but just giving you updates from all of that there. So for those who work in the school district, especially in California, LAUSD, this is now a mandate that's been made by Governor Newsom. So take it, leave it, see it with that grain of salt, just read it and plan and make your plans accordingly. Now, with that, we're done with the health side of the news. Now we're going to move over into other areas within the government as well as some things in life. So, the next thing, this article, it comes from NPR, another one. And the title reads, "Wages are going up, and so is inflation. Consumer prices have hit a 13-year high." It's very interesting. Now, let's see what they mean by inflation and things are hitting a 13-year high. What's going on, brother? Good to see you up in here. Chairman Dallas in the building. Thank you for coming through. What's the word? Let me know how you feeling, how you doing down in the comments. But with that, let's see what this 13-year high is. Article reads, "A lot of workers are getting wage hikes this year as employers compete for scarce labor. But it's not all good news for workers or the economy. Some businesses are raising prices to offset the wage hikes, contributing to surging inflation and eroding some of the benefits from that higher pay." Do what you gotta do, brother. I appreciate you being here for however long you need to, man. Much love. So, the Department of Labor reported Wednesday that consumer prices were 5.4% higher in July than a year ago. That matches the June inflation rate, which was the highest in nearly 13 years. The increase was driven by rising costs of shelter, food, energy, and new cars. So, even though we have wages going up, what always comes and balances that out is the rise in the cost of living, which is always something that people not only voice, but see that it happens. We can go back and you can even trace how much the worth of a dollar was back in 1920 and see how much its value is in 2021. And you'll see there is a complete shift of not only the cost of living that was back in the 1920s, but to where it is now. So, just wanted to share that with you to know that even though jobs and wages are increasing, so is the cost of living, which is just balancing it back out again. You know? Now, with that, next one I want to move to, y'all. And we're almost done with the news. This is in the topic of science. I was talking about outer space and things of that nature. And this, again, is another article from NPR. And the title reads, "You got plans for September 24th, 2182? This big asteroid might too." So, article reads, "A potentially dangerous asteroid named Bennu has a 1 in 1,750 chance of hitting Earth between now and the year 2300. That's according to the most precise calculations of an asteroid's trajectory ever made, and the odds are slightly worse than NASA previously thought. Still, the researcher studying Bennu says this doesn't keep them up all night. So, the impact probability went up just a bit, but it's not a significant change, says A.D.V.I.S.S at the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. He points out there is a 99.94% probability that Bennu is not on an impact trajectory. So, not in here trying to scare folks or anything of that nature, but just letting y'all know what NASA and folks who are watching what's going on around outside of Earth. This is what's going on. They've named the asteroid Bennu, who is on track supposedly that may be coming here and may not be coming here. But if you got plans in between now until the year 2300 or 2300, watch out for this, I guess. Just wanted to lighten some more stuff up in a way too, but that is in the news for science. Next, which Kundan spoke on and has put in here, we coming from the New York Times, and this article reads, "The Resignation of Andrew Cuomo." For those who do not know who Andrew Cuomo is, Andrew Cuomo was the 3-term governor of New York, and reasons behind him resigning is after a ballooning sexual harassment scandal. This has driven him from office more swiftly than expected. So, there's 2 of the paragraphs. I'm going to read these 2, and we'll be done with this article. If y'all have comments, please always put them down there within the comment section, and let me know if y'all have any other news reports as well, too. This is a community. That's what we're here for. So, article right here reads, Governor Andrew M. Cuomo of New York announced yesterday that he would resign from office exactly 1 week after a searing report found that he sexually harassed 11 women. I don't know why I held that, but I just did. What convinced him to step aside? How did the scandal bring about such a rapid and astonishing reversal for fortune for one of the nation's best-known leaders? And what happens next? So, if y'all don't know, with that, last week, there was a release of a 165-page report by the New York State Attorney General prompting multiple calls for Mr. Cuomo to resign, including from President Biden, a longtime ally of the governor. As well, there's basically different reads of transcripts and things that are there. So, for those wanting to know more information, New York Times and other things of that nature, but because of those allegations, Andrew Cuomo of New York has resigned. And lastly, another thing, and we're done with the news. This is in the politic realms, just to have on people's radar to hear to have it. This article comes from CNN, specifically CNN Politics. Article title reads, Senate Democrats approve 3.5 trillion budget resolution in key step towards passing major economic packages without GOP votes. So, let's read a little bit about what that is. 2 paragraphs and we out. For CNN, Senate Democrats approved the $3.5 trillion budget resolution early Wednesday morning, setting the stage in the weeks and months to come for the party to craft an attempt to pass a sweeping economic package expanding the social safety net that Joe Biden has made a signature agenda item without the threat of a filibuster from Republicans who oppose it. The vote was 50-49, and the measure passed after a lengthy series of amendment votes known as a vote-a-rama, which started on Tuesday afternoon and went until just about 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, in this particular one, basically, there is a budget that was passed. That doesn't mean that it is brought to be put out into the world just yet like that, but it is passed to have a plan to then come back and talk more about, to then finally put that into law and to have that be a bill to help with just kind of like the other COVID relief bills and things of that nature to add. So they did this without the GOP votes, Grand Old Party Republican votes. But with that, y'all, that's the news. If y'all have any more things concerning the news, please throw them in the comments. Other than that, appreciate y'all's participation as well as all that y'all have gotten to say so far. So, before we move to the next topic, let me look at these comments. So we got in here, it says, people are now also making fun of Trevor Noah for his new jokes regarding Cuomo because he previously called himself a Cuomo-sexual. But I think changing your opinion based on new data shows learning. Yes. Biden's $1.1 trillion infrastructure bill passed in the Senate this morning, bipartisan. There's another one. I didn't even know about that either. But just know there's more and more information that is happening every point of the day. So with all of this, please make sure that you at least get your time to read and to watch some news so you can stay up to date what is going on. But with that, thank y'all for the news. Now we're going to transition and we are going to get into the second topic for today, which we're going to be talking about safety versus risk and where that all plays in hand of speaking today. So with this, please, y'all more than welcome to join, come in and have your thoughts on this. But as we're getting into this, I want to at least lay down definitions that we will use to continue this convo like I usually do. So when y'all hear the words safety and when you hear the word risk, what things come to mind? If you do, throw them in the comments and let me know. And as you are putting those down into the comments, I'm going to read off definitions so that we can have this again as a basis for our talks. So, for safety, we got Webster's, as well as I always like using free dictionary. So, with that, for safety, we have the condition of being safe from undergoing or causing hurt, injury, or loss. Well, with that, what's going on, Chris?
Hey,
Much
Calvin.
love.
A.D.V.I.S.S.
What's the word? What's the word?
Nothing much. Just wanted to check in because it's Wednesday.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Thank you for coming in and doing that. That's just literally how it goes. And again, shouts out to you. And thank you for being a part of the community. Because I forgot to tell, like I said in the beginning, this is the 1 year anniversary of What's the Word Wednesdays. We've been doing this for a year,
Hey,
y'all. So,
Oh my
so
God,
shots out
congrats.
to all
more
of
to
that,
come. Hey,
right?
Kundan.
What's going on, Kundan? Peace and love. And tell us what's
Peace
the
and
word,
love.
y'all. So, see, we already getting things all set up in here together, y'all. So, we just already getting the
Yeah.
topics ready and set. So, for all those who
Hey,
are coming in
Brian.
right now, too, we are going over and we're going to start talking about the topic of safety versus risk.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing right now is I'm just setting the basis of definitions so we can have an idea to where we're
You know,
going
I
with
love
the safety
Webster.
and risk. So I'm going to continue with these. And then when I do that, you two are more than welcome to jump in and give your takes. So, again, for safety, first definition we got the condition of being safe from undergoing or causing harm, injury, or loss. Second one, a device, as on a weapon or machine designed to prevent
Mm,
inadvertent or hazardous operations. So a safety on the
on the
gun and
gun.
everything else. Yes,
Does a
Oh
knife
yeah.
have
yes.
a safety? Sorry, that was so random.
It
Because
That
it
would
said
be the
object,
sheath,
but it could have
right?
just
I
said
Some knives have
like I don't
I
know
was
a
anything else that
sheath.
has a
Like a
safety.
dagger has
That's
a
a
sheath.
weapon.
So that's a sword, right?
Oh, okay, the case. Okay,
Yeah, the
gotcha.
case.
I like that. The
cell.
Yeah.
detail.
You
So
have
that would be the
your
safety.
cell phone. You got a case, so that's the
You gotta
safety
have a
for your
case.
cell phone.
Safety. Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
all right,
Yeah.
and then two other ones, and this is more in the sports. We have a
Mm.
situation in football when a member
Mm-hmm.
of the offensive team is tackled behind his own goal line and it counts for 2 points. So that's a
That's the
safety, of
safety.
course. Um, Another one, a billiard shot. So this is for pool, made
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with no attempt to score or to as to leave the balls in an unfavorable position for the opponent. So basically,
That's
literally
but like
not
a
letting them get it.
defense.
Yeah, basically off of a
Yeah.
defense. But
Yeah.
that is the one for safety. Now for
Mm.
risk,
Okay.
and again, you can always come back and ask me, okay, what are the definitions? I'm just putting them out there. Risk, possibility of loss or injury. Another
Mm-hmm.
word, peril.
Mm-hmm.
Risk, someone or something that creates or suggests a hazard.
Mm, okay.
The chance or loss, no, the chance of loss or perils to the subject matter of an insurance contract.
Okay, so that's more like financial. Okay.
Yes. And then a person and thing that's specified as hazard to the insurer. Yes. Last one, the chance of an investment will lose value at risk.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Again, material
it's
definitions.
giving
Gotcha.
you the whole frame up of
Spectrum.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, what are we talking about when it comes to safety versus risk? We can get into a multitude of different areas, but
Right.
I know a lot of hot topics of places where we can start talking about safety versus risk, especially right now. Pandemic
Like the
situation,
vaccine, right?
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
pandemic situation, relationships, as
Mm-hmm.
well
That's
as
always
we're gonna
one.
talk about. We can talk about also money investment, or at least if you don't know no investment, but even with your money,
Yeah.
Or even travel,
or
right?
even
Travel
travel.
has its risk
Yes.
and its safety. Yeah.
Which, while I'm doing that, then I pose this question. Then, so if safety is supposed to be the opposite of risk,
Mm-hmm.
how do we really know if we're safe from something if we have we risk things every single day.
Mm.
And what I
Yeah.
mean, what I mean
Yeah.
by that is for us to fully know what safety
Mm-hmm.
is, or a thing that we call safety,
Mm-hmm.
we have to know that every day that we get up and we walk, we live, we do everything in life, we're taking a risk in some way, shape, or form. So what makes something less risky or safe versus something that is completely risky? Y'all let me know.
It's the balance, just like everything. Like ever since you showed me that book, like I see everything in two parts because that's the whole.
Yes.
You won't value or know safety without risk. You know, every time you take a risk,
Yes.
it's a learning opportunity because it teaches us, like, okay, so certain paths are not safe if we are
Yeah.
doing, whatever we're doing. That's opportunity, growth, tuning. Like,
Can the
it's a
background music be a
balance.
little bit
Click.
lower so that I can hear her better? Yeah. There you go. That's much better, I think. Yeah.
That's how I look at it. That's how I feel.
I'm with that. I'm with that. I mean, that's gonna be with a lot of things, and that's how we come to understand stuff within life without us even really knowing it. I
Yeah.
mean, as kids, that's how we know the opposite between what's big and what's small, or what's short
Mm-hmm.
and what's tall, or what's day
And
and what's
twos.
night. It's like
And twos.
everything's in twos. Even though we know
Mm-hmm.
that there's a number of things that can also come in threes, we know trios, things can come in fours,
Right.
quads,
Right.
all these other things. But to simply get ideas and concepts down for kids, it's always coming in those
And
twos.
twos. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we again, you can go through life and find a lot of the pairings, but we're not going to do that all here. But yes, I agree with you. Like that, literally, it is completely when it comes to that balance there. Now, I know you might have something, Kundan, so please feel free to stop me whenever. Um, there's a point to figure out, then okay, we know this is a balance, so then I know what this is a risk is and I know what the safety is. What are some examples then for you all, and I'll give example myself too, of what you in your life would have being it's risky and the other side of it is being safe. So for me in particular, when I used to skateboard, I don't skateboard as much as I do anymore. I knew for me, there's a whole thing that they're called, there's people who are vert and there's people who are flat ground. So those who are vert are those folks who are going in the ramps, going and jumping off the pipes and doing all those other different things. And those who are flat ground are mostly just staying on the ground and doing either tricks from there. Sometimes they'll do some grinds and other things of that nature. So when it came to skateboarding for me, going into a bowl or any of those natures on a ramp and things, that was my risk. Versus me staying on a flat ground and just doing tricks, kickflip, whatever it is on a flat ground, that what I saw as safety. Even though I'm still taking a risk of being on a board and there at any time I could fall, that one for me was very more risky because it involves so much more acrobatics and jumping and things of that nature versus being on a flat ground. So that's how I was able to at least tell when I'm in my safety skateboarding, I stay flat, I stay on the ground versus jumping and going everywhere in the air. But that's at least that's my example, at least when it comes to safety versus risk. Now what?
Yeah, that's a good example. Like also even surfing, even bike riding, right?
Mm,
Bicycling. It's like it's also like what are we how much are we willing to pay for in terms of risk, right?
mm,
Because speaking of sports,
yes.
I never learned how to ride a bike because when I rode it the first one or two times, I fell down and I got scared and I was scared of, scraping my knee, and that is a risk.
Yeah.
But it does take a few scraped knees for you to learn a bike, right? Learn how to ride a bike, and that is the risk you have to take and accept
Yes.
that it would happen. And it's a risk that you're willing to really take an next step uh, in order to go through, the result of learning how to ride a bike. It's like swimming is another example. Like
Mm-hmm.
I actually never learned how to swim either because when I took swimming lessons, I was always afraid of drowning, right?
Mm.
And and I think like a few ye- 2 or 3 years ago, I learned how to float for the first time when I went to float tank.
Yes.
One of those float tanks,
Yes.
which was the craze back then. And that was literally my first time, I think, even learning how to float.
Mm.
In the safety of very shallow water, right, in the
Yes.
float tank. Yeah.
Wow. No, I appreciate those examples, just because of the fact that, again, for us to get an understanding and no understanding of where we're going with a lot of this right
Hmm.
now, we need to be able to have some type of framework when it comes to stuff. So
Hmm.
now, moving
It
from
it
that.
goes back to like what I think we talked about it a few months ago when we were talking about passion, and the etymology of the word passion comes from the word to suffer.
Mm,
So
That
one
connection.
way to interpret passion is what are you willing to suffer for,
yes.
right? Which goes back to what are you willing to risk,
Yes.
right? Even if it's something as simple as boredom and frustration, right? Like if you're a writer and if you write, like whatever you want to be, skilled at, right?
Yes.
There's gonna be some aspects of it that you don't like, right? Specific to that skill,
Yes.
and you want but if you're really passionate about it, you're willing to risk all of that in order to become skilled at it.
Yes. Again, that's where we come again to the fact of where are we putting what is safe to us and what is a risk to us, because ultimately,
Mhm.
again, they are one and the same. Now, another question I
Mhm.
wanted to end up posing with that, along with it, is for safety. What would be some common things folks would say is safe to them? What would create a
Mhm.
safe, quote unquote, space for certain folks?
Mhm.
So while
Mhm.
I'm thinking about that as I'm putting it there. Uh,
I think it depends on the context, right? And it should be on a case by case
yes,
or situational basis, because it does, I think, depend on the context. But at bare minimum, I think in general, acceptance, right,
mm,
would be uh, at least a bare minimum, right?
okay,
Uh, and then you can go deeper, like because I just read a quote today that said, "Go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated,"
yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes,
acceptance is actually just the bare minimum. So at the very least, we want to be in a space that does accept us at the very least,
yes.
right?
I'm glad, because now, yes, now see, look, now you're giving me some characteristics and some signs to look out. This show you that shows that this place or this thing is safe. So I like that. So
Mhm.
finding a place that's accepting. Um, Another thing that shows
Yeah.
you that literally a place is safe or something is safe to you is, I would say, it's the structure or how things are prepared.
Mhm.
So know you're going to, say, a trampoline place, or you're
Mhm.
going to a shooting range, or any place that you're going to be having some type of fun or thrill. For the jumping and the trampoline place, are there safety pits? Are there
Mhm.
places, if you do jump, that if you fall, you're not going to have a concussion?
We're in the same wavelength because I was just thinking about boundaries
Mm-hmm.
as another uh, indication of safety because I just had a situation that's still ongoing,
Yeah.
happening in my life recently that started a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, um, where and now the lesson that I'm learning is if a space, even like an open mic or whatever, uh,
Yeah.
doesn't have a clearly stated boundary of ironically of what can or cannot be expressed,
Yeah.
that could potentially be a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if the boundary doesn't lean toward justice,
Yes.
right? That is a red flag. So like a space like even more better Mondays or the Cool Lab, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have clearly stated boundary that they don't accept
Zero
uh,
tolerance.
zero tolerance for racial slurs, including the N word, even if you're black, doesn't matter, right? And even cuss words, and then even sexually explicit statements.
Yes.
And now I may not necessarily agree, maybe with a blanket uh, boundary like that,
Mm-hmm.
but their reasoning actually leans towards justice, which I like, and I like that they even have boundaries. There's some places that don't even have that.
Yes.
Now, in retrospect, I see those places as huge red flags now when
Mm-hmm.
they don't have that. Even if they state on their website that they stand against white supremacy or they stand for justice against it, if they don't have stated boundaries
Yeah.
in their day-to-day operations, that shows to me that their operating core values
Yes.
contradict their stated core values.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm glad you
yeah,
brought that up. And we got the sister and Chris in there
mm,
saying liability. Um, that comes with things like
mm-hmm,
that. If for things to really be safe, being able to have that structure, and if you don't have the structure, knowing that there's going to be liabilities for stuff and things that
mm-hmm,
happen, that's where that risk comes in of that liability. If you're not able to have that structure, you lower that risk and you lower
mm-hmm,
that potential of liability when it comes to something maybe happening. Another thing I wanted to add with this too is I see another definition here, and for safety, one of the key things that popped out in my head right now from it, and I want y'all's thought on this too, is this one I got from Free Dictionary. It says the condition of being safe, freedom from danger, risk, or injury.
Okay.
So
mm,
from that, again, I bring back up a
Agree.
question again of, are we truly free when we put
mm,
ourselves in a position to be in a safe place? Are
Mm,
we truly free?
right.
mm-hmm,
Unfortunately, not all the time, you know?
And
mm-hmm,
it's because of those
Yeah.
facts of what, not facts, but the circumstances that
What
Kundan
it is.
said,
Yeah.
that literally, if you're at a place and if they haven't laid out the format
Hmm.
and people come in and it's supposed to be that safe pace, and then something goes awry,
Right.
how is that a safe place anymore? The risk just
Gotcha.
went up high.
mm-hmm,
So ultimately, for me,
mm-hmm,
looking at that definition, it's not necessary that you're free from all
Right.
type of risk,
Hmm.
mm-hmm,
but you put yourselves in a
At less of
place
a risk.
at
Yeah.
less of a risk.
Weighing risk analysis, basically.
Yes,
Like, yeah.
yes.
mm-hmm,
Factoring.
Now,
Yeah. I get that.
so that's just something that popped out right here to my mind. Now,
Yeah.
if y'all have, hey, we keep it going in this discussion. We bouncing it off of each other. Now, when it comes to, let's flip it and we'll go back and forth with it. But now, when it comes to risk,
No. I had a good 5 minutes.
we'll come back. We'll come back. Oh, I see what you're talking about. When it comes to risk, and I didn't do it with safety, but we'll do it with
mm-hmm.
risk first, and then we'll come back to
Hmm.
safety. What are some of the pros and cons of putting yourself in risky situations?
Well, it's just learning and growth, like the example of learning how to ride a bike, right? When you put yourself in that risky situation where you could scrape your knee, or you could even fall on your head and have a concussion possibly, right? Especially with more risky sports like skateboarding, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
or even surfing where you could drown, right? Uh, and even what is it? What do you call it? Where kids jump around on
Oh,
the
parkour.
railings nowadays? What's this? Parkour? Yeah, that's highly risky, right?
Yes.
But it is also fun, right?
Yeah.
If you're willing to, I think the higher the risk, the more things can be fun in some contexts because of the adrenaline rush, right? And the endorphins. So that's the fun. And then the learning a new skill, those two things at the very least.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because with all of that to put together too is for those folks out there who are thrill seekers. Yes, spatial awareness in the background, brother. Shouts out to you, brother Saab, you in the building. What's the word? As well as Devin, what's the word for Wednesday? You let us know. Let us know what's going on. But with what you were saying, literally, for those who are thrill seekers, are there actually an inkling in their mind of safety being the first thing that's on their mind if they're seeking the thrill?
No, I live with the thrill seeker. It's all like no, like she went skydiving last year for her birthday just cause. Like
Woo!
yeah, like
Yeah.
straight up went to Arizona. I was like, bye, gonna do this. Like safety is not the concern for thrill seekers, at least, because it's like they want that experience, and the only way
Mm-hmm.
to get that experience is if you risk it. Again, that's the risk
Mm-hmm.
analysis, towards it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because the reason why I asked that
Yeah,
is now it gets to the whole thing again of the safety versus risk, which
exactly.
now gets into the thought process
Right.
hmm
of those
Yeah, it
who
makes me
think very
wonder, like,
safely and those who think very risky,
Yes.
and
mhm,
what that can also get into personality wise. There's so many different
Hmm.
things, but
mhm,
Really
just the
cute.
thought
right.
process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like are some of them like hiding or running away from something? It makes me wonder.
Yeah.
And are they being numb to certain things?
Yes.
Because I'm not trying to generalize,
Nomadic
but like
Odyssey.
for example,
Yeah.
allow like some people in the BDSM community, for example, they do it
Mm.
because not everyone, but a few of them at least, they do it because they are numb to regular sensations, so they need edgier and edgier or higher and higher sensations.
Mm.
So even something like getting cut, uh, and like literally getting cut, like in their not just whip, but even cut, uh, with somebody that they trust, who've gone through, ironically, some level of safety discussion, right?
Yes.
Uh, but they need that yeah, they need that thrill because they need the sensations are lower for them, the sensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they need more and more sensations in order to feel something.
Mm. And see,
Interesting.
but see, look, it's no, because it makes a lot of sense, because then it starts to get to an idea. I don't even say an idea, but it's shown that those who seek thrills like that and who continue again to try to reach that certain high and ecstasy that they had before, it starts to make you
hmm
want to see, okay, then when it comes to behavior wise, you know, which folks who are more safety oriented and more risky oriented, who
Got
shows
you.
to have more of a addictive, quote unquote,
Personality
personality
or
things and
something.
all
Yeah.
these other different natures of stuff,
Hmm. Hmm.
which shows in those
Yeah, the funny
behaviors.
thing is
Hmm.
being too safe can also be a form of running away from something,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
yes.
So it's both and.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No, definitely.
The
yeah.
scale. Everything's a scale. One
Again,
extreme
hmm
to the other.
Yeah.
Gotta
Yes.
find the
Yeah,
balance.
yeah.
So I mean, it's always like that. So I mean, you wanna make sure that when you are doing something, the main thing you want to do is be aware and have a plan of what you're gonna do.
Mhm.
Even if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
even when you have that plan and the life and the universe says, you know
Yeah.
what? Nope, we still gonna throw something else at you that you're not ready for. At least you've
24/7.
had an idea and you had a plan, so then you know accordingly how you're going to address this risk or how you're going to keep yourself safe.
Right.
Now, we got into a few of the pros when it comes to risk taking, which is more so more growth and more experience to help with that. Now, what is a con
Mm-hmm.
with being more risky?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
Well,
actual
you
like
could
loss.
die. You
Like
could die,
whatever
I
the hell
guess.
is. That right there is enough.
Yeah, not being on
It's
this
so
earth anymore.
here. It's
Yeah, I mean,
right in
like,
your face.
yeah,
Like
you know,
you thought.
what's going on? Alchemy Goddess, peace and one love.
Hi, Alchemy
Welcome to
Goddess.
What's the Word Wednesday. So let us know how you're feeling, what you're doing, and what's the word. Right now, we're talking about safety versus risk. And we're talking about now the cons of risk and being risky. And I mean, the main one, of course, is you becoming ghost. You're not a part of this world
Mm.
anymore, or at least this physical realm anymore. Um, what's another one, y'all? What's another risk? Another con to a risk?
Well, a social debt, right? Like just being
Reputation.
embarrassed.
Oh.
Yeah, well, reputation is a big one, but also even
Mhm.
just being embarrassed or rejected,
Oh,
right?
yep, all those things.
Yeah, being made fun of, etc.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another one. I like that one. For a lot of us, um, a con to a risk is, you know, a loss of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
in particular, I'm speaking to the situation that we're all in right now,
Mhm.
with this pandemic, and for certain folks, there's certain rules and regulations that doesn't sit well with them, or it
Mhm.
does sit well with them, and places are taking to those particular new realms. And what I'm talking about is mandates and all these people, whether you will get a vaccine or not, or
Mhm.
if you will wear a mask or not, and all these different things. And if you
Mhm.
choose not to do one of these different things, there's a possibility if
Of a
you only work in
consequence.
a job 9 to 5 and you have bills and things and stuff to pay and you backed up and things of that nature, there is that loss of finance, which ultimately could be that loss of that apartment, loss of that house, whatever it may end up
Mm-hmm.
being. So it's now like, how do I end up bringing that out? So
Yeah.
the choices you make, Oscar, is a con when it comes to the risk.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's
oh
why I
yeah,
just sum it all up as loss. Like just
very true. And I
all the
forgot to
L's.
do this.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to do this. So y'all I gotta remind myself, but for those who do come in and those who do join, just let you know that this will be posted on YouTube. So if you are not comfortable with that, please, you're more than welcome to stay in the comments. But if you are, you've already waved and said that things are okay and we're good. So I just gotta make sure I forgot. Gotta put that out there. It's the waiver. But appreciate y'all. Um
Mm-hmm.
now with that, we did a few more of that. Now let's flip back over. Now when it comes to safety, what are some, we'll flip it, what are some cons to safety?
So, well, the con would be the opposite of what I said earlier, right? You could remain ignorant and not learn
Yeah.
anything, not become skilled, uh, not be successful, not grow in life, because like all of these things require some level of risk.
Yes.
Like even learning how to walk, right? When you were a baby, you first learned how to sit up. Before you even learn how to crawl, you had to learn how to sit up,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you learned how to like stay on all fours, and then you learn how to crawl,
Yes.
and then you learn how to stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of those things required risk because even just learning how to stand, you had to topple a few times, right, before you were able to stand.
Yes.
So yeah, all all of those things. So it's almost like the entirety of life like requires some level of risk.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um. We all come on that same page, and we just bring it in different ways.
Yeah.
Uh, another con to safety, besides not being able to grow and stuff of that nature, you begin to blame and fear everything
Mhm.
because of the fact that you're not willing to take even the smallest of risks of even getting up off your couch to go get something.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you begin to start thinking up in your head, oh, what if I get off of
Mhm.
the couch and then I start walking, there might be a spider or something might flip and fall. You begin
Mhm.
to start conjuring up things that continues to keep you in your safety bubble
Right.
and not allowing
Mhm.
you to go beyond and out of that.
Mhm.
So another side of a con of being safe, like we're saying, it's almost on these extremes of being too safe and
Right.
too risky, is that you begin to create again the fear mindset. And we talk about the whole mindset between the difference of the two.
Mm.
And that's one
Mhm.
thing with a con when it comes to being safe.
Mhm.
Being too safe, you begin to create that fear mindset. Um,
Mhm. I actually knew someone who had agoraphobia, which is the opposite of
mm,
claustrophobia.
yeah.
So instead of fear of small spaces, she had a fear of big spaces.
Yes.
So she was often afraid of even stepping out of the house. Like she only came out of the house, I think, for a movement class and
Mm,
my class that I taught sometimes. So she only got out of the house like twice a week,
mm,
and yeah, she had this agoraphobia where like she was afraid to even like walk around the block, like even that was a big deal. Like it would take her like an hour or two just to like take one step at a time
yeah.
to get over her fear. So yeah.
Mm. So look again with a lot of this too, when it comes to safety and risk, is also learned behavior. It's learned.
Mm,
We don't know what necessarily a risk is and what safety is until, of course, we've learned it and we've experienced it and we saw it and teaches it to us. Yes.
mm,
So another
mm,
thing with that, again, now we're on a con still with safety, and then I'm gonna flip it to the pros with being safe. Another con
mm,
that safety can bring is with that, fear mindset. What it also does, it also creates a health risk. That's the crazy thing.
mm,
It creates a health
mm.
risk, which you would think if you're being so
Interesting.
safe, there wouldn't be no risk that you're taking. The reason why I say a
Mm,
health risk, and this is not only mental health, I'm also speaking physical health as well as spiritual health. What's
mm.
going on, brother? Good to see you up in
Hey,
here.
what's up?
Peace and one love. What's the word? Let us know how you feeling, how you doing, and what's the word. Yeah, but you would be surprised that yes, even trying to be as safe as you possibly can, you're also creating health risks. So
Mm,
it's almost to a point that no matter what you try to do,
mm.
as safe as you try to do it, there is
What's an
always
example
going
of
to
the
be
health risk?
ultimately. So an example of that health risk would end up being, so say that folks again are um afraid to leave their house, or folks are afraid to get up from where they are, or folks are afraid to end up
Mm,
walking or running. You run the
mm,
risk of not only providing your body with the much needed exercise it needs on a daily basis
mm,
to keep things in your body working. I mean, of course, you're still going to do the natural eating, all those other different things, but you're not giving your body that much needed movement. So ultimately, and there's studies, you can
mm,
look this up too, for those folks who are very sedentary, and sedentary means that you sit and you're just in a spot for a really long time.
mm,
It showed that folks who had sit at least half of the day were
Mm,
3 times, if not more, likely to have different forms of some types of diseases. And what I mean by that, as in a
yeah.
likability to get those.
Mm,
So if you're too safe to the point that you don't want to do something, you go out and do something, you don't want to ride the bike, you're afraid of taking a walk somewhere, you don't even get up and want to walk around in your house, in your room, you're creating that physical health risk because of the
mm,
fact that I'm complacent. I don't want to have no problems, no drama. I'm going to just sit here in my chair, sit here on my couch, watch TV. And if I need to get up, I get up, get me something to eat, drink, and that's it.
mm,
And those are folks too that create again that complacency of knowing that I'm good. I don't want to go out there and
mm,
risk so much, so I'm good. I'm gonna just stay right here where I'm at. So
mm,
that creates that health risk. This is just me again,
mm,
y'all. This is all with a grain of salt. You take it for what it is. This is just what's coming from the top of my head when you think of that. Now,
mm,
on top of that health risk for a physical, it's also the mental. Because if you don't check in with yourself and your mind and keep your mind stimulated, besides watching, the TV, which is not always the best stimulant for your mind because it's just mindless stuff. If you're not learning anything from the news, you're not learning anything from what you're watching, you're not actually really pushing that muscle, which is your brain, which y'all forget that's also a muscle. And if you don't flex that and train that it also wears and tears. A mind can go to
mm,
good waste if it is not used.
mm.
You
Yeah.
might look at, and it might run in your family. You might have, you know, like ability to have dementia and Alzheimer's and other things of that nature, but that can show up later on if you don't continue to engage yourself in different activities to stimulate the mind mentally, as well as the compound of you don't feel healthy. Now you feel even worse in your mind because of the fact that you're afraid to go and try to do other things because of the fact that you want to be super safe. So then you begin to
Mm,
confuse yourself in your mind. So then now your mind's all over the place. Your
Mm.
body don't feel
mm,
the best. Now, the next thing will end up being with the whole spiritual aspect is in if you pray to God, Allah, whoever you are, and you're telling them to take away all these aches and pains and things of that nature, are you really taking the time to truly connect besides asking and begging versus really
Mm.
taking in the information that particular religion, God or so is given to you? You're just only asking
mm,
them when you're in dire need versus doing these acts and stuff of nature. Again,
mm.
a well, I think it was what is it Thomas? It not. It was Albert Einstein. One of the folks. I might be wrong. I might be quoting wrong people. But really, it says that object in motion stays in motion, and if it's always sedentary and things of that nature,
Inertia.
you see why. It's
Yeah.
inertia.
That's
Thank
the
you.
law of
Yeah.
inertia. That's
Yes.
Newton's law.
Yes,
Yeah.
Newton's law.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Please, y'all let me know, because
Mm.
again, I'm all mixed up. But basically, that's the whole setup when it comes to us as beings. Is that
Mm,
there's states and times where we're inactive, but we're not really truly inactive, especially when we sleep. You'll be surprised when you sleep, your body's actually working sometimes even harder to help either build muscles, repair muscles,
mm,
all these other different processes, clean your body, things of that
mm,
nature. But
Mm. Mm.
with all of that, if you are not in movement, not in motion, and not doing a lot of things at a very
Mm.
set of time, there's a such thing, you become stagnant. And we know
Yep.
about what happens with
mm,
stagnant waters and other things that
Oh
become
yeah,
stagnant.
mosquitoes.
You start to attract certain things, certain feelings, certain vibes. And again, I bring it back up because we are energy, frequency, and vibration as
Right.
beings. So if we do not replenish our energy or we do not set ourselves in a good environment to thrive,
Mm.
energy wise, vibe wise, you're going to be surprised of what you're attracting or what you're getting. So my
mm,
whole little spill there is the con with being safe or
Too
too
safe.
safe is the fact that it can also bring about health risk, which is very funny and contradictory, you would think. But yeah.
Right.
Um, Now let's get to these pros, and then we can
mm.
go and we can continue to the next thing, or if y'all have any more. But what?
Yeah, like even exercise can like increase your, your endorphins, right? So which can then make you happy. And so if you lived a life that's very sedentary without much movement, it can also impact even your mental health as well,
Yes.
not just your physical health.
Yes.
Now, this is now some people for some people with a particular, chemical imbalance, they no amount of exercise might help them,
Yes.
and they might need, some pharmaceutical or medical
Yes.
assistant, whatever. So those are the exceptions, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm talking about the regular middle, the average person, right?
Yes.
For them, like if they don't exercise enough, then it could eventually impact their mental health as well.
Yes. And thank you for adding that in there. Again, yes, y'all
Yeah.
always let me know that, where we are speaking to the least majority of those who are able bodied and those who can do a lot of these things. If not, for those folks who need the extra boost of those things in the nature of have been born with different, disadvantages.
Mhm.
There's also other ways and other exercising things for this. But when we speak about this in just the general terms, you take what you need from it, the information, and try to
Mhm.
pair it and you try to update it for wherever you are on that spectrum.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, y'all tell me, what are some pros? And I'm talking about people in the comments too. Y'all all welcome to do the same. What are some pros for safety and being safe? What are some pros?
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like just this extreme, as like we were like risk. Oh yeah, the
Chairman.
loss, because that's what it's associated with. Safety is
Mm-hmm.
the same level of extreme. The comfort, you are safe. That's
Mm-hmm.
the like the best pro. Like I am safe in this moment, in this whatever time period, or right now. I'm
Yes.
mentally, physically realm, like safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Shouts out to Chairman Dallas in the building, giving us
Hey,
some
Chairman
What is
items.
that?
Dallas.
Giving us some
Oh,
Condoms.
he gave
oh,
us some
see,
Oh
ideas,
yeah,
okay.
like
they
some
give
Oh,
us
don't
items.
do that
safety.
to me. I'm starting
Yeah.
to
Okay.
feel old. I felt like one of these
Sexual
grandmas.
safety for
I was like,
Yeah.
sure.
oh, don't say that.
And
Like,
mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
like, oh, no, we're not talking about that.
Yes.
But yes,
Yeah.
Uh,
The funny thing is, somebody said growth, and I agree. The funny thing is,
yes.
just like risk can help you grow, so can safety.
right,
Actually,
exactly.
you
Yes.
need you need that right balance of safety and risk for you to actually
The
grow.
physical realm at
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
But yes, agree. Look at agree to the condoms, safe sex, please,
Yeah.
y'all. Okay,
Yes.
as well as the
If you're
mask
still
for
there.
those who need to, please. All those, I should say, not for those who need to, but
Hmm.
for those, please.
Oh my
Wear your
goodness.
mask when needed. Okay, as well as yes, we were speaking on the mental health. That's
Yeah.
what safety can also help with too. A
That.
lot of
Yeah.
this, again, it's all scalable. You want to be able to notice, again, when we speak about pros and cons, it's almost
Like the
like
arc
saying
of
the
it.
safeties and the risks. It's
Yeah. The
literally
arc
going
of it.
hand in hand with a lot of those things. So a pro with also safety on top of the growth and on top of the comfort. Another thing for safety that brings apart is also safety to me, even though we said it I said it a little bit earlier, is that
Mm.
safety also brings about some structure.
Mm.
It
That's a
actually
good
kind of
one.
does,
Mm.
because and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's also with knowing, again, yourself and how you are balancing
Mm-hmm.
things out is
Hmm.
when you find something that's safe and is good and it works for you, you have at least a foundation of where to start from. So it's starting to create a structure for you versus just risking everything and just jumping everywhere and just going all of this part. You
Right.
have no safety net or anything of that such. You're just literally just like, oh, I hope it works, without testing, taking time to
Yeah.
really evaluate and figure things out. So
I'm getting a lot of
literally,
earth energy in this in this side of the conversation.
that's where
A
it's
lot
ended
of
up
earth.
Yeah.
going.
I'm getting
Peace
like
and love. Let's
woozy.
tap in. Let's tap in this morning. All right, brother.
Like
I will definitely do that, man. Will we
Yeah.
continue? But continue. Appreciate you.
The
a lot of
structure
Yes.
also goes in line with the earlier conversation about boundaries and limitations,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the irony is that they've done experiments where they found that people are actually more creative when there are limits imposed on the creative process when certain limits, right?
Mm.
They've done experiments with, I believe, about 10-year-old kids, for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Yes.
where they were asked to come up with creative way alternatives to the clock hand, right?
Yes.
Creative ways of coming up with depicting the clock hands, right?
Mm.
And when they were given no limits, they were like, just do whatever you want, just be creative.
Yes.
They couldn't, really think of much. They thought about toothpicks, for example, right? But then when they were given a specific limit and said, oh, you can only use animal parts or animal limbs, right?
Mm.
For the clock hands. Oh, then they started becoming really creative. Like they thought about, oh, dinosaur limbs, things like that. And so that's the paradox. Like when they put specific limits on the creativity, they actually became more creative.
Yes. And
Yeah.
the reason for that, because look at it again. A lot of this stuff doesn't always work for everybody. You find what works for you. But the reason why, out of what you were saying, is because of the fact that for some people and for kids and a lot of us, we need at least an example or an idea to help
Mm,
us to get going.
mm,
That's why sometimes being and there's think tanks, there's thought groups all over the place when coming up with stuff
mm,
because of the fact that you may be like, yo, I have something, but I just don't know where to take it. Let me hear y'all
mm,
thoughts on it. You say one thing again, like what y'all do
Right.
sometimes, like you said
And
earlier,
it,
Kundan, when you was talking about your points on the risk, and it made me start thinking of thrill seekers and their whole, the thought process between those who think
mm,
safer and those who are risky and all the behaviors is just from what you said had me go ahead and start developing even more
right.
ideas into that.
Or even freestyle,
Oh,
right?
freestyling.
Freestyle poets ask for prompts. They
Mm,
ask for prompts and words from the audience
yes.
so that they can come up with something. Yeah,
Exactly. Oh, the
yeah,
brother Gnome Odyssey knows a lot about that freestyling, man. He knows for sure.
yeah.
But yes, that's another great example. So literally, with safety, being able to create that structure, it also helps to develop, from your case, more ideas and more ways to even grow again from there. Um, any other
Hmm.
ones that y'all got for when it comes to the pros for safety?
Hmm. Um, yeah, just like healthy connection, right? So
Mm,
part of what creates safety, as I said earlier, is the boundaries, the healthy boundaries, right? Healthy boundaries instead of a wall, right?
mm-hmm.
Uh, so when you have the healthy boundary, that's more conducive towards healthy connections, like
Yes.
even one-on-one, but also in communities when there are clear guidelines and boundaries on how to interact.
Yeah.
There is the structure, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that creates for more juicy, healthy, more joyous, more fun connections, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even more productive collaborations as well.
Yeah. I'm feeling that. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all of that, wrapping up here on the safety and risk, and if y'all have more, please add your
Mm-hmm.
points in there.
I just took a risk right now with my phone's safety, trying to prop it up while I'm doing the dishes. I just almost lost it. So, lesson learned.
Ooh.
There it is. Now you know for next time we gotta hook you up and just buy you a stand so you can stand
I
wherever
have
you go
mini
with it.
stands. That's the thing. But they're clamped, and I don't. It doesn't clamp on anything in the kitchen, so it's a conundrum.
Mm.
Now I'm gonna get you a stand like the one that I have that I'm using right now with
Like a
the ring light
tripod.
that's behind me. No, like a small little stand. Like I have a few. So if you ever come back down, I got you. You can come and just cop it from me, and you have it. It's yours with your name on it. Um, so
Thank
we
you.
can be safe. We can be safe and not risk that going on.
Right.
But all right, instead of being goofy,
Right.
to wrap it up with safety and risk, how and I like to use this a lot. How can we use both safety and risk within our lives to help us continue to grow and be better versions of ourselves?
I think that's where the term the calculated risk comes into play, right?
Mm,
Is take risks, but with discernment and structure and boundaries and systems, right?
mm-hmm.
Where you take uh, risks, but you calculate it carefully, you know, or even placing small bets, right?
Yeah.
Uh, where you gamble on your life, but it's calculated, carefully placed low level bets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
agree with Kundan. That's where risk analysis comes in, or when you like weigh like the outcomes of each risk and really make calculated, like decided, you know, like I stand firm on this, so I'm like chess, kind of. Everything
Yes.
has to be decided. And you know what you're sacrificing, you know what you're going to lose. So you can like, I think that helps with like the mental strength component of like preparing for the loss. Because we
Which,
grieve when we go
oh,
through any
mm-hmm,
loss, any type of loss, there is grief
mm-hmm,
that happens.
mm-hmm.
And we all know there's 7
Mhm.
stages. And we go through them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it helps when you're like, okay, let's wrap our head around this, and that way we don't have to, well, I don't want to say waste time, but that's just how I look at it. Like for myself, I don't like to waste my time grieving, like because that's time,
Yes.
that's a loss for me. That's another, there's a risk to grieving for me. I
Yes.
lose my time. So
Mhm.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
let
and
myself
business,
go
good
through it. You know what
business.
I mean? And it takes time. You know, but if
Mhm.
I like am already like talk to myself through it, I'm like, okay, we're okay. Already coming to acceptance,
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
for me, I feel like then you can move in it better. You can stand by it. If you ever start to like doubt your choice or whatever, have a little bit more conviction in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So with
Mhm.
that, I'm gonna add on top of it even more, but I want to put in the brother's comment. It says, and Cooney read it, but in business, good business, yes, being able to calculate those things to be able to say, is this a good business move or not? And we
Mhm.
get into, of course,
Yeah,
the
that
whole
makes me think
ideas.
about the investments as
Yes,
well, right?
in
Mhm.
investments.
That you do with the stocks and the crypto,
All of that.
Hmm.
where
You have to do
there
your
are different
research.
ways. You have to do your research, and some people use the buy and hold strategies for minimum risk, right?
Yes.
Where they just buy a small amount using discretionary income, meaning that
Hmm.
they won't uh, they won't miss it if they lose that income,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And it's a long-term strategy where they intend to hold it for at least 5 years and not sell it. So in between there might be huge drops, and there might be huge ups and downs, but they
Yes.
don't care because it's a long-term strategy, and
Yep.
actually it might even be a 10-year or 20-year strategy for some
Yeah.
people,
Mhm.
and that's like the minimum risk level, right? And
Yes.
then from there you can calculate how much higher risk to take.
Mhm.
Yes. You got it in right
Yeah.
there. So when you do your research on certain stuff, when it comes to strategies or investing in things, for me, I'll give you an example. Yes, in the stock market, when you creating certain different portfolios or places you want to buy things, you want to be able, especially to at least give yourself that safety net or at least that foundation. You invest in things that you know will guarantee. And when I mean guarantee,
Mm,
I mean it's been proven year in and year out from that particular company that if you don't get any type of return, it won't dive down in that particular way. And even if it does, it
mm,
eventually comes right back up. And for that
mm,
example, one of the most notable ones, and I'm using a lot of their accessories right now, and a lot of us is the iPhone or Apple, period.
Apple, yeah.
So you investing in Apple would be a long-term strategy because ultimately right now with Apple, it is just continuing to just grow and grow over time because it's going to be continually used throughout the more of this technology boom and just that nature. So investing in that already would set you at least a firm foundation of having something that's there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just an idea on that, which brings me to this, and then we'll jump into the next thing. That's my business. That's my primary investing strategy. Yes, you got to. That leads me now to wonder this last thing here and to pair it together. All of this stuff that we're speaking on when it comes to safety and risk, a lot of it comes down to having good decision making skills. So that makes me begin to think even further and talk about if we have those good decision making in those skills, be able to have those to help us become better versions of ourselves, or at least to grow and
Mm-hmm.
get better. How can we facilitate that decision making skill from young to old? Because I will tell y'all now, I don't see as much, or if not little of that, within the modern day schooling system that we have. There's little
Mm-hmm.
to ideas that help you make decisions on things. There used to be classes on life skills. There used to be classes on how to literally problem solve. We problem solve in the sense
Mm-hmm.
of how we've been taught to problem solve, but not necessarily when it comes to life issues. So how can we
Mm-hmm.
facilitate folks to build on that decision making skill?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go to the next topic from there.
Yeah, that's interesting because, there are a lot of misconceptions on how we even make decisions, right?
Mm,
And we're not taught how it's actually done. And I've been recently learning about the neuroscience of storytelling, especially in the book Story or Die by Lisa Krohn.
mm,
And there's some surprising things that I've learned about decision making and the relationship between rationality and emotions, for
mm,
example, right? And we're taught that, oh, we must be rational, right? And it's a misconception because the we may justify it with rationality or even start off with rationality,
mm-hmm,
but the final decision is always made with the emotion. And and unfortunately, emotions are demonized in the society that
mm,
we live in, at least here in the United States, and and in the schooling system, and especially in regards to decision making, right? There's the
yes.
myth that we have to be, rational and write down pros and cons, and so there's actually this powerful case of this man who went through a stroke, and they were able to get him back on his feet, right?
Yes.
But strangely enough, uh,
Peace and
his
love.
life his life started spiraling, apart, unraveling apart,
Mm-hmm,
and he lost his marriage, he lost his job, and
mm-hmm,
they couldn't, like, the doctor, he went to doctor after doctor, they couldn't figure out why at first, and then one neuroscientist figured it out, like his the part of his brain
mm-hmm,
that processes emotions got shut off when he
mm,
got the stroke.
mm,
So he would go into a restaurant and stare at the menu for hours and not being able to decide.
mm,
And that's how his entire life was, and that's why that was the way he was at his job. That's what happened to him because at the final decision is made with even something as simple as a gut feeling,
yes.
or even
Yeah.
just, oh, I like this banana split ice cream, I'm gonna get that,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not rational, it's emotional, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, and we gotta learn how to balance the two and really not demonize emotions so much.
Oh yeah. The thing is
Yeah.
because, like you said, those are the misconceptions and the ideas. Folks, folks don't understand that actually, or understand that the difference between reactions and responsibility is that reactions are only based in emotion versus when you respond to something or responsibility, it is based in both logic and emotions. And the reason why is because when you are responsible for somebody, something, and anything of that type of nature,
Mm,
you take into consideration both how you feel at the moment, how you know
Mm-hmm.
this is going to have an
mm,
impact of the people, your team, and those around you, as well as you logically put together, all right, if I make this move, this can happen. But what you do is
mm,
you use your emotions, energy and motion. That's what I like to call it. Emotions is energy and
mhm,
emotion. You use that energy of how you feel to help spark and drive
Mm-hmm.
your ultimate end decision. You don't start off with
mhm,
it, but you use it as a way to
mhm,
balance yourself back and be like, okay, if I want to end up going with this decision to go to the concert, I know I'm gonna have to end up driving 3 hours, and then that means from
mhm,
that 3 hours, I also have to make my way back another 3 hours. Now, how do I feel about that? What am I gonna do? Then you start planning and putting that together. Then ultimately, at the end of the day, if you
mhm,
really are feeling joyful about going to the concert, your ultimate decision is that you're going to go to the concert or you're going to go to that place. But now
Right.
your plan to figure that out is how I'm going to keep myself engaged during that time driving there, as well as coming back, as well as how I'm going to be safe when I'm there, all of that. So you basically, that
mhm,
whole idea of reactions, you're only using emotions to display that
mhm.
versus
Yep.
responsibility or responding, you're using both your logic and emotions. Because that's the one thing I
Mhm,
want to say too on this, and then we flip to the next thing is
mhm,
emotions is what makes us human. Without those
mhm,
emotions, we might as well be AI or a robot.
Right.
mhm.
Because if we only
Yeah.
think in logical terms of every single thing, guess what? There's things within nature and life that are so illogical that they're contradictions and they don't make any type of sense on a logical sense.
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
But that's what makes things in nature and life so beautiful, is because of how not only imperfect, but also of how impossible at times it is to
mhm,
understand it. So emotions is the thing that makes us human, and you just got to know how to use them to your benefit, not in a manipulative, but not in the escape. Unless that's if that's your cup of tea to use it in that way, I don't recommend it. But
Mm-hmm.
literally using emotions to help guide your decision making, and being able to teach folks about that, all of that goes in together
The
to make those
process.
decisions, that
Yeah.
process, and be able to teach that skill will help ultimately help everyone understand safety versus risk and how to
Right.
mhm,
create that for them in their lives.
Yeah.
mhm. Well, that said, it is still also important to learn about logical fallacies and
Mm-hmm.
cognitive biases like the
Mm-hmm.
cognitive dissonance,
Mm-hmm.
confirmation bias. Like if you buy a red car, you see red cars everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, and you know logical fallacies like false binaries, false equivalence, and the the irony is if you look at logical fallacies carefully,
Mm-hmm.
they are they're actually kind of too emotional on them. They're like that's a paradox, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where if you and you can people can use these fallacies to easily manipulate you. You know, like some people, you know, use confirmation bias as a so-called proof for law of attraction, for example. And I'm like, that's not law of attraction, that's just confirmation bias. Like if you buy a red car, you'll see red cars everywhere. That doesn't mean you attracted that into your life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's because your awareness is
yeah.
heightening about all of this stuff. Again, You
exactly.
go through, and you just have to be able to again notice and
Mm-hmm.
figure these things out as you come up again. And the main thing is being willing to learn and be open to what you come across. If you don't, then yes, all those confirmation biases, all the closed-mindedness and things of that nature will continue,
Mm-hmm.
which then end up leading you into not growing. And we can talk about that's a risk for your mental. And boom,
Mm-hmm.
all of that comes back in together to
Or
weave this
even
together.
survivorship bias,
Yes.
like learn all the cognitive biases and all of the logical fallacies,
Yeah.
because I've also noticed survivorship bias a lot, and especially in the coaching industry, where
Yes.
just because uh,
Smooth
this
and
one
West.
person succeeded, hey, yeah, like some people, just because they succeeded in life, they think that everyone has to follow exactly what they did,
Yeah.
and that's survivorship bias. It just means they survived. That doesn't mean they're the default, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Again, yes, y'all. We talking about doing a lot of thinking, and if you're not that type of person that want to think, I don't know. I don't know. I can't. Not gonna
Yeah.
help you on that case because guess what? Your mind has multiple thoughts throughout the day, so I know you thinking.
Hmm.
It's just that you just selecting parts that you just like. I don't want to think about that. We're not saying come become a scholar of everything that there is to know
Hmm.
within this world and the universe, but more so
Hmm.
become an expert on your own life and experience. That's all we're trying to
Hmm.
really get at with some of this stuff. It's like just become an
Yeah.
expert of your own life and experience. If something bothers you, if something works for you, if something is not healthy, safe, and it's very risky for you, take some time to figure it out. That's it.
I like it
Hmm.
Don't keep
Yep.
don't keep knocking into the tree if you just keep and
Hmm.
you because you don't want to
Yeah,
walk
because
to
the
the
cat in the
other
tree.
side because the cat in the tree can fall down and end up scratching you, and that's a risk that I guess you didn't think of.
Hmm.
So y'all just look
Exactly.
at, you do not have to end up being a Plato, a Socrates, all these great minds. You can just continue to just grow your mind on simple things. So do
Hmm.
what you can. We're not saying be the super people. Do
Yeah.
you, but also think about it. Right.
But also don't reinvent the wheel. So there is some value in learning from other people's experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. If you got look at those are actually cheat codes to life, y'all. It's being able to learn
Yeah.
from somebody else's experience. That's a cheat code to life.
Hmm.
Oh,
So if you know
right.
that
Yeah.
person went down the street and she dropped the plates, those who went down the street and you saw them end up stopping at the stop sign and then a car passed by and then they left, you're not going to just decide, okay, I'm going to drive down the street and don't stop. And then you get hit or the car comes and almost gets you.
Hmm.
Take a look from what's going on around you, get it play from their playbook, and now use
Yeah.
that to help you get to the next step. And I'm not saying, oh,
Hmm.
steal it and just, well, again, when we talk about plagiarism, no, be able to use it for where you can understand it for yourself. And that's a play you put in your book, but you can say you was inspired from someone else. So,
Hmm.
with that,
Yeah.
y'all.
Adapted to your own life experience.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
with that, y'all, we're going to get into the last topic for today, since we was already getting, and we're talking about something around in it. The last topic for today that we have is finding options in a
Mm-hmm.
hopeless situation.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm an
mm,
expert at that.
mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're
I
gonna be
know,
looking on your
I know
expertise, so I
from
can put
nothing.
some of the notes in my playbook. You know.
Like that, my life for these past 3 years has just all been off risk. I've been
Mm.
gambling and
Mm.
gambling with like just a lot of things, but I'm still here. About to move
You.
to the next step, next level. So it's not all, it feels hopeless, but
Yes.
it's not all bad. You just gotta find your options.
Yes.
The best
Mm-hmm.
advice I ever got was from my uncle,
Mm.
and I used to live with him in 2015.
Mm.
And we would talk a lot, like how we're talking, but it would just be me and him, and it would be like till 3 in the morning, like just back and forth, like just like this. And he told me, "You're never hopeless if you have options. if you can be reminded of your options, if you can
Yes.
find an option,
Mm-hmm.
if they are available, then you're not hopeless.
Mm.
So you
I
can't,
like it.
because you have options. They may
Yes.
not be the
Mm.
ones you want. They may not be so enticing, but you take that step, it opens the door over here, and through that door, and then through another door. As long as you have options, you're
Mm.
still moving.
Mm.
You're still moving.
Mm.
It may not be a straight line,
Yeah.
but you're moving. You're going.
That
Mm.
is very true. That is very true. I like
Mm.
it. And before I do a comment on that, shouts out to the brothers Smooth T in the building, as well as the brother West Coast Ninja. Appreciate y'all being
Hello,
in
hello,
here,
West
y'all.
Coast.
What's the word?
And hi,
What's the
Noble
Much
word?
love.
Flower. Yeah,
All of that. I'm grateful for y'all
yeah.
being in here. But yes, I'm glad that you said that, Chris, because
Mm.
again, I'ma say this, and I know y'all gonna get annoyed, those watching now and on YouTube. But this gonna be our sound clip all the time. That literally,
No. No.
I put these topics together and I word these things together on purpose. Because
Mm.
in the statement itself, finding options in a hopeless situation, she just ended up saying it. She said, Chris said, if you have options from her, then you're not in a hopeless situation. So what
Mm.
we're talking about is we're already breaking the whole idea of something being hopeless, and we're turning it around because we got options, so it's not hopeless. It'll be hopeless
Mm.
if you literally is in the middle of the, I'll just say it
If
like
you
this,
had no
middle of the
options.
desert, nowhere near civilization, and you're literally just stuck. And the only option, I mean, you look at, okay, we can get deeper. There is multiple options, but we don't want to think too hard into that. But the most viable option that you can choose is literally walking. You don't know
Mm.
where unless you know how to read the sun, moon, and the stars, which unfortunately a lot of us have not also learned a lot of those natural or those
I'm
nature practices of being able to
kidding.
read directions. We need the GPS. We need a map and things of that nature. There's ways
Mm.
and things in the sun and the sky and the stars to be able to tell where north, south, east. All that being said, only option is walking, and hopefully you being able to survive that far, because there is no cactuses, there's nothing out there for you to help sustain yourself. But that is just, of course, an end all kind of doomsday scenario. But in this
Mm-hmm.
particular case, when it comes to finding options in situations, there's ways for you to create steps and be able to create and change in your mind to help start to get you to a hopeful situation or to get you to a better situation. Because I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, but I know I speak for myself. When you think of the word hopeless, and yes, I got the definition up because y'all know that's what we got to do. When I think of hopeless, that's literally there's no hope. Everything's despair. So
Right.
there's no chances. It even says it right here. Having no possibility of being solved or dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Impossible.
Impossible. Yep, that sums it up right there.
Impossible.
Everything's
Mm.
supposed to be possible. No, it's impossible.
But again,
Yeah,
Yes,
impossible,
I am
Clifton.
possible.
I'm possible. That's the thing. But that's you finding an option to read the word that way. But see,
exactly.
if you didn't find an option to read the word that way, it's going to still look impossible to you
Impossible. Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
versus I'm possible. So look
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that comes, and this is where I want to frame this whole part two around it is with the beginning of the safety and the risk of also knowing this, being aware and the thought process that goes along with that. Because for folks, for example, and is a very bad situation. Those who experience domestic violence or partner violence and things of those certain nature, for some folks that can be seen as a very hopeless situation. And reason being, it's a part of that too. It's not only because of the physical abuse that's going on,
It's
but it's also
emotional.
the emotional
Mm-hmm.
and also the psychological abuse is going on.
Mm.
For you to really be in a hopeless situation, nobody, honestly, nobody can make you be in a hopeless situation, even if they're bringing that upon you.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be able to have that effect on you, then
Mm-hmm.
for you to start thinking, and now this is a hopeless situation. There's nothing I can do about this. There's nothing I can think of. I
Mm-hmm.
want to try this. I want to do that. But it just crushes all of those possible options. And that's when you have no options. Again,
Mm-hmm.
having no hope or chance, no possibilities is what we are calling hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that and saying that is, and I want to add to this then and ask the question to y'all, and this is also to y'all in the comments too, please. I love it. Y'all, participation
Hey,
is
pretty
needed.
provocative point.
So when it comes to finding options in a hopeless situation, which area, and we're talking about physical, mental, spiritual, psychological, all those other
Okay.
different all those occos,
Ologies.
all the ologies and things.
Okay.
Which one is the most, if not first one that appears? So when you are in a hopeless situation trying to find options, are you thinking and doing it through the physical means, through a mental means, through a spiritual means, through psychological means, all of those natures? Where are we starting?
I think it starts psychologically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because then that perspective sends out a different way you view what's happening in the physical realm. So like paranoia or whatever. How like people go through different shocks when they first realize, oh my god, I have no options. It's like you come to terms like because you discover it's like hitting a brick wall.
Yes.
Like I'm paused. So that's why I say mental. That's why I say
Mm-hmm.
mental first because it's like the realization, you
Yes.
know, and then it kind of then warps its perspective on the physical. So I'm thinking mental, psychological, physical. What was the other one? Then spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
depending on this is where it gets individualistic because it depends on the person, what they practice, whatever.
Yes.
you know, for some people that holds them through so that when they overcome or when that other option opens, they're like, yay, because of this or because of my faith.
Yes.
I'm not very religious, but I think my life is right now being guided by faith. Because, like I said, like, I'm just playing around. I'm out here like, yeah, let's move around. Let's do this. Stability, what's that? Like,
Yes.
we're young,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
YOLO, So for me, it's like faith. And then that's another conversation for another day on what is the source of my faith. We don't know. To be continued. But,
Yes.
but I know I have faith in something that's helping me. But yeah, I say like depending. So that's like one positive aspect, and then like a negative aspect would be
Mm-hmm.
like we hear about people who turn away, you know, from whatever source or whatever when it comes to spirituality, or it
Mm-hmm.
may throw you into finding a new
Yeah.
balance or a new perspective to figure
Mm-hmm.
out why this obstacle is in the way or why is the door hidden on the brick wall. I know it's there. Maybe it's one of those national treasure type like maps, and we have to like figure it out and decode it. Then the door will open.
Yes.
It's like it for me. That's how I think the process starts.
Beautiful. You got something on that, Kundan? Because I have a few things, and I just want to at least let you get what you
Yeah,
got.
so according to the dictionary you read, a hopeless situation is basically like a situation with no options.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a paradox, right? Because if you have options, then it's not a hopeless situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
So yeah,
which that
so
turns
it's
into it. Go ahead.
yeah, it's interesting because I come from more of the Buddhist perspective, which I've been learning from my teacher, one of my teachers, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, in terms of just reading a lot of his books and
Mm-hmm.
watching his videos. And he talks about how hope and fear, or actually even hope and hopelessness, are kind of like two sides of the
Same
same
coin.
coin,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, when you hope for something, it means it hasn't happened yet, and you fear it won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes from a sense of lack, right? There's a sense of lack,
Yes.
and there is a way to kind of dissolve the paradox, which is to connect to a sense of spaciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the easiest ways that he recommends is sky gazing, to gaze at the sky. And then once you connect to that, you especially to connect to the space between the sky and you,
Yes.
and then you start feeling complete. That feeling of
Mm.
completion is actually the opposite of hope. Like the opposite of hope
Mm.
is uh, isn't like what most people think is also the opposite of fear. It's like uh, so that's the thing that dissolves that paradox.
Hmm.
Once you feel that completion inside, that's when you start accessing your infinite nature, and you start
Mm.
realizing how resourced you actually are, and then you start becoming resourceful, adaptable, uh, and that's when you start figuring out options, that you have options in this
Yes.
hopeless situation. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm loving that. I have I have a few points to come back both on Chris and yours, Kundan, but I also want to shout out the few folks that's in here, also putting comments down. So let me read those. From the West Coast Ninja, we got, exactly, brother. I was in a hopeless situation throughout my teen years in my household, but I took the risk and left my family to build my own life. Sometimes it can be scary. Shouts out to you, brother, and being able to witness that. I know it's hard and it's definitely a hectic situation to go through, but I am glad that you're able to come out on the other side and be able to tell and live the story that you're doing now. So, right at you, brother. Um, but never doubt your potential. Continue to push, to grow, to build your own happiness. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, you got to. It's all up to you
Hmm.
to do a lot of these things. Build
Mm-hmm.
the family that values you. You have the choice. Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes back to up here again. And going from back to you, Chris, and then I'm going to get on to Kunis because I have some more questions I wanted to throw from what your last point you said.
Hmm.
So from Chris's, I wanted to add on top of knowing the fact that you are able to work your way and find, you know, these choices and things that you end up making. And I'm trying to recollect it again because I did have it. How do and what can you ultimately do to set yourself up to have options? You know, besides,
Hmm.
we think about that we're thinking it from the mental and the spiritual. How can you set yourself up, saying that you're in a situation that you're not able to, take time and do a lot of these things? How can you properly set yourself up? Because I agree with you that it starts with the mental. And what I mean by the mental is that your awareness, the awareness is not only what you see from the physical, but is what it comes in here. Because we have a thought. People talk about, I know there's different things, the theories of, thought preceding behavior or behavior preceding thought. And we can go back and
Mm-hmm.
forth with a lot of that. But when it comes to a lot of things that you end up envelop, developing and pushing yourself to end up doing, you have to think about it. And once you're able to think about it and
Yeah.
figure it there, that's where your ultimate reality around you starts to open up. So then you can start figuring out those
Just
different
gotta,
things and choices. But for those who aren't in a situation that will allow them time wise or even, perspective wise to even think of these things, how do you go about creating those steps?
Mhm.
you're about to hate me right now. How do you eat an elephant?
A little bit at a time.
No, but that's my true answer. Like, like you gotta take it one step at a time. It's
One
like
bite at a
you
time.
gotta think it out. You gotta
Mhm.
think it out. You gotta sit down, and it takes work to reshape that perspective. I'm not saying it's easy, because once you see something and you get it like set in, and then when it sets in psychologically, that's the next level of the mental. Then you got to reroute all of that. You have to like
Hmm.
really
Mhm.
change your perception. It's all interconnected.
Yeah,
So
but what if I
it's
don't
like
have time? What if I have to end up making
you
dinner and
got
I have to go
when
here
you
and when I go to
feel
sleep?
when you feel like you have no options, when you're feeling hopeless, like you can't see any options, you're gonna think, whether you on the way driving wherever you I do it at the register all day at work. I'm thinking about like what I need to set up for me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, not saying that I feel like I have no options. I like to weigh my options. I like to look at every single option. It takes
Yes.
like, yeah, it's detail oriented. Like, you have to like really try to search. You're looking, and you
Yes.
already have the motivation if you're already in a place where you feel like, oh my god, I have no options.
Yes.
You're gonna get up. You're gonna start like searching. Like, it's like
Because
when you lose the keys and you're like, where did I put them? You're not just gonna be like, oh, the keys are lost. Like, you're gonna be like, oh my god, where are the keys?
yes, because it taps
Mhm.
back in
Yeah.
again, y'all. It taps back in to that primordial and that primitive part of our bodies and our being as humans, and that again, fight, flight, freeze, survival.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You gonna go all started from the bottom. Now we here. It's not only just a declaration of like a
No,
celebration of
you
you
gotta go.
making it from where you started. You got it out the dirt, or you started from somewhere that was very very hopeless from the bottom. You're all the way down at rock bottom, but somehow while you was down there, you slowly climbed your way out, so you can end up either finding your way to slowly get to the top, or at least out of the situation. You
You
gonna find a way.
you started eating small bites of the elephant. Then you decided you like
Mhm.
elephants, so the pieces got bigger, and then they got bigger, and you still eating the elephant one, one
And
bite at a time.
in this case, the elephant is a metaphor for your problems in other situations. We do not condone when it comes to elephants. They're
No, it's
sacred
not literal.
animals.
It's
I'm just playing,
definitely
but
it's not literal, guys.
yes, all joking,
Yeah, it's not literal.
all joking
Yeah.
aside. Yes, literally, you're gonna
Yeah,
find that. You're gonna take those
that's a good
steps,
metaphor.
and you're going
Right.
to find those ways
Yeah.
to be able to get yourself up out of there. So literally, I'll say this from my own experience. When I went through very rough patches and stuff in places where I really had to reevaluate, and I ain't gonna say it felt hopeless, but it was getting close. And
Mhm.
because of me as a person and how I evaluate things, like, and I was very in tune with my body, there's points wherever I was doing something, like my body just stopped and didn't want to do it. And when I mean by stop, like, it's just something told me, sit down, do nothing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I sit
Mhm.
down and I'm wondering, okay, why am I sitting down? And it's, oh, because you've been running so much trying to fix this situation, fix that situation, find out what's going on with that situation, get money over here, drive this way, come this way, that you'd even take time to not only check in with yourself, but you haven't been sleeping well, you haven't been eating well, you haven't been up on your hygiene. What's going on?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And in your head, it's like, yo, there's so many things that I'm balancing at once that I don't know what to do. So it's gonna, your
Mhm.
body,
Mhm. Take
it's
it
gonna stop
easy.
you. and you're going to take it in. You're going to take that time. That's
Mm-hmm.
why reflection is so important. Not only just to sit there and be able to catch a breath, because when you're running this marathon we call life, there's going to be points where you're going to slow down a bit because of the fact that you got to catch your second win, your third win, whatever it is. Nobody's running a marathon 100% straight through day and night. And if they are,
No.
I'm going to tell you now that that life expectancy that they're going to be wanting to try to get all the way to the end, I'm going to tell you,
Right.
you about to have double their life expectancy because you're taking time to rest and do everything else that's needed. Go to the pit stop, get some water, all of that. So, and all of that being said, you're going to find a way. And with that, it is being able to do things step by step. And a part of that is having that awareness there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
going and touching back on your points, Kundan, and basically the idea of flipping between hopeless and hope and how that brings about that completion. My question to you, everyone else too, is how do you know when you have reached that level of completion for whatever that situation and thing is? How do you know? What is a marker that tells you, okay, you were at 15%, now you've actually reached all the way to 100% in this issue? What is that marker that lets you know that you're quote unquote complete?
Mm-hmm. Um, I don't I don't know if it's situational. I think it's more on, well, at the highest level, it would be, basically you have experienced some form of awakening or enlightenment. That's when you're feeling complete. But it doesn't even have to be that level.
Okay.
I think it's just, I think only you would know at that
Mm-hmm.
moment that it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling of just feeling like
Mm-hmm.
nothing is missing inside you. It's a feeling of feeling total strength and self-confidence inside you uh, without needing to prove anything. So it's
That's
not
great.
arrogance. It's just a self
Mm-hmm. Confidence. Yeah.
reassurance. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's and from that, and then after that confidence, there is just uh, a a sense of something bubbling, right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And it is from that sense of something bubbling that the creativity comes in and your creative solutions, the creative ideas come in, right?
Yes.
So you you know it more by the results than by the actual moment. The actual moment is just a feeling that
Mm-hmm.
is basically almost
Mm-hmm.
entirely subjective.
Yes.
But once you start getting those creative solutions or ideas start coming up,
Yes.
and you start feeling high from that,
Yes.
that's how you know in a more
Mm-hmm.
practical, visceral way. You know,
Beautiful. I'm glad you came to that because
yeah.
yeah, that's
I was
that's
gonna
basically
note
where I
that.
was. Yeah, yeah, that's where it was. I was trying to tease out is that not only is it going to come from the feeling, but the idea of confidence and you knowing and having at least a ground understanding of what you're doing helps to
Mm-hmm.
have you some type of again autonomy that you're doing this or you're going in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
because
It's
again,
also a
You can
feeling of
move
being
with
supported,
conviction.
yes,
actually,
Yeah.
even if you don't
Mm-hmm.
see it immediately yet.
yes,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
for an example, again, we'll go back again to the riding the bike because hopefully people have been able to experience riding the bike. If you haven't, I'm sorry, you're missing out.
It's
You
the
know,
best.
go
I
you
love cycling.
go to your nearest cycling in the bike shop. I mean, put on a mask and make sure
Go
that
get a bike.
you follow. I'm gonna stop being goofy, but basically,
Go get a bike.
yes, for you to really know that you are progressing at learning how to ride a bike, you literally have to not only have that awareness and that peak interest of wanting to get into doing the activity. We can talk again, going into flowing and stuff, but you can see that, okay, the first time I got on the bike and I have to push up, I was only able to pedal 3 times before I almost fell. And then the more that you keep on doing that in repetition and you see day in and day out, you start to notice again, you build your confidence. Then you start to know, and now you're riding for like 3, 4, 5 minutes now. Now that you've known that you've able to be able to get to that, and Kundan, I don't know, I think you might have started putting some wind in there. I can hear a lot of wind. Um,
Oh, that's the fan. Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
you
Okay.
are able to see those results. Again, that's what a lot of stuff
Hmm.
is, being able to tell if you've gotten something down, or at least don't have to say it's 100% complete. And I've learned everything there is to know. No, like at least to have some type of basis to be like, all right, I'm somewhat good in this area. It's just that particular, it's those particular points.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the riding a bike example because I'm multi-creative and I dance and I draw and I write, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I actually prefer uh, dancing to dancing and doodling to writing in some ways, especially doodling because,
Yes.
and at least in my experience, like now some artists like whenever they draw paint, they might feel like it's never what they're doing is never finished, right?
Yes.
I actually kind of feel the opposite, like uh, where when I'm doodling, I feel like every little thing that I draw
Mm-hmm.
is complete on its own, and yet I can also keep going, and every time I keep going, that is also complete.
Mm.
And so I feel like I always have the option to stop
Yes.
or to start again later. Like,
Mm.
and to me, like there is no difference between the two. And to me, that's the closest metaphor, but it's more than a metaphor, it's an actual experience that I experienced.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
the closest example to what I'm talking about, where you are you are moving forward towards a goal,
Yeah.
but you don't feel like your happiness is dependent on it. When
Yes.
you feel complete at every stage, and I feel that the most when I'm doodling. Like,
Beautiful. I'm glad, because again, we're giving examples, and again, everybody modifies it to what works for them. This is just another way. Again, bike for me, doodling for Kundan. Chris might also have a bike, might have cooking, whatever, or literally playing games, crafting art, whatever it is. Just knowing that in that process, that's how you're also building to have that type of completion. Now, I
mhm.
want to run down, and I went here, and there's a place, it's called inkandfeet.com. It's funny, I don't know. I just look up and Google stuff, things like this. But I wanted to talk about, at least they have 7 steps of helping you get out of a bad situation, because we talked about finding options, but we didn't necessarily say, all right, how do you end up doing that step by step? So I'm gonna do these step by steps. Then I have another comment that Chris had said a while back that now popped into my head, and I just want to address it, and it's a good thing. And then lastly, I want us to give our last thoughts, because this is actually for this celebration episode of What's the Word Wednesdays too. We've already went over and passed our time, and it's great. I'm glad. This is what a lot of this is meant for. Um, but I'm gonna do those
Before you
things.
do that, I also wanted to point out that I grew up in a isolationist military dictatorships where we had
Mm,
uh, very little. Like we had one TV channel, and and then if you a lot of the Western movies were imported on VHS tapes and things like that.
oh wow.
So we have. So the funny thing is, it made us more resourceful and adaptable. Though, like if you look at our buses,
Mm-hmm.
uh, things might have changed by now. But at the time I was growing up, uh, if you look at our buses, like, and if you look under the hood,
Yeah.
none of the original parts are there. They're gone because they keep repairing the bus and
Mm,
sometimes replacing it, and often replacing it with either imported parts from China or even making it up on their own,
yes.
inventing new parts uh, to whenever they need, to repair the bus.
Yes.
Same thing with our cars. So and the common mechanics are also on every corner,
Mm-hmm.
which is the opposite of United States. Like how how often have you heard of a car mechanic in the United States? It's very
Where?
rare.
Mm.
You might have more of the body shops are more common where you just repair the top part,
Yeah.
but not the under the hood, right?
Mm.
So, and that goes to show, like, that's like even like a small example of how, in a way, Americans have grown up to be kind of soft, basically, right?
Mm.
Kind of not so resourceful.
Mm.
And so growing up in those kinds of situations for me actually has helped me find more options and, hopeless situation because like even this pandemic, right? I feel like for, black and brown and indigenous people, it can feel like somewhat of a hopeless situation because,
Mm.
like, at least for me, I don't want to get COVID, but I also don't trust the government, right?
Mm.
So, because of very good reasons, like the Tuskegee experiment, the shit they did in Guatemala, Puerto Rico, all of these experiments they've done all over the globe.
Yes.
So now but I do try to find options. Like I mostly stay home. I wear a mask. I do social distancing. I don't go out to much events. I only go to the grocery store and the park.
Yeah.
So things like that. Yeah.
And you finding your options and you're doing it exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Did I miss what you circled back to? I got kicked out.
Okay. I'm going to look at so I want to step onto your to your point after I say these seven steps to get out of a bad situation since folks will be like, okay, then how do you
Hmm.
find options in a hopeless
Gotcha.
situation? So we're gonna do that, and then there's a point from you that I just wanted to add a small piece to, and then we'll wrap up. Y'all give the last points, and then we good to go. All
Hmm.
right. So from this again. It says inkandfeet.com. Okay, this is just a perspective, so don't take it as law.
Hmm.
All right. So it says 7 simple steps to get you out of a bad situation. If it says bad, we'll pair it for hope. Hopeless. So first
Okay.
thing that you want to do, we already been speaking about it. Step one, recognize it. So be aware that you're in that situation, whatever it is. If it's hopeless or
Hmm.
not, you have to recognize it. You got to do that. Within that, I want you to write things down. So be able to kind of start jotting it down. So for those who don't also necessarily think out, and you're always trying to think multiple thoughts and you have complicated things, write it down. If you got to, write it down. If you ain't got a pen and pad to write it down, I guess sing it out. Do whatever you need to help you be able to assess the situation. It's first step. And within that step,
Mm-hmm.
as you're assessing the situation, two, you want to
That's a good
describe it.
one.
So be able to
Hmm.
describe, okay, what the situation that you're in. Because I'll tell you this, not only your analytical mind, which is the left side of your brain, and then the right side of your brain being the critical side. If you're able to describe it, you're able to help yourself picture logically how things are going, and then might even be able to come up with creative ways to also get you options out of the situation. So be able to describe it as specific as you can. And that could
Mm-hmm.
be from all the senses, you know, describing, how the situation is seen in your eyes, how the situation makes you feel, how the situation affects what you hear, how the situation affects what you eat, all of the different things. So being able to describe it. Third one, when you're able to do all of that and you put all your options, or you're able to find there, you find a better situation. And with finding a better situation, look at again, I'm just looking at these things and I'm coming off of what it feels by me is after you've been able to identify it and you've been able to describe it, now you think about, okay, what would be a better situation for me then? Okay, would the situation be all right, being away from family? Would the situation be better for me staying inside if I don't want to end up catching COVID or anything? You start thinking of that situation because
Right.
a part of
Right.
that is the visualization, visualizing. You'd be surprised how powerful visualization and also writing things down can do for
Mm-hmm.
you. So
Oh yeah.
finding that better situation. Then the fourth step is saying, take one small step towards it. We've already been talking about that. Chris, with the elephant analogy, it's one bite, one step at a time, moving towards it.
At a time.
And that could be over time.
Hmm.
The fifth step, it says, and even in this thing it says do steps, and there's 7
Mm-hmm.
steps. Take a step. Take a step. Number 5, it says write out your next 3 steps. So even though you took your first step, now okay, how the next 3 you think are gonna look?
Uh-huh.
Write out your next 3 steps. So then you know when
Oh,
you take
now
the
we
next
playing
ones, you do it
chess.
like that.
Now we
There
playing
we
chess.
go. You gotta think a few steps ahead before you get to the next thing. Exactly. The 6th step, it says, is to rinse and repeat. After you took that first step, you wrote out the next
Now
3. Maybe that step didn't end up working. You got
rinse and
knocked back 2 steps.
repeat.
So then you end up writing to figure out other steps. You rinse and repeat it. You figure it out. If it works, it works.
Gotta
If it
use your
doesn't, you
knight.
come back
That's
to
why.
create it. Yes. Goofy. Yeah, man, you got to put it E7.
The,
Come on
the
now.
knight is clutch.
In the
Yeah,
last step,
the
it
knight is clutch.
says, the last step, and we speaking again from safety, risk, finding options. This last step is very important and it helps with this one word, which is growth. And the last step is prevent yourself from going back. Because when you find yourself retracting all the way back to that situation, you hinder yourself not only from that growth that is incoming because of the steps that you take in, but you get yourself right back into the situation, which will then end up calling for you to try to come up with something completely different. And it will continue to create this cycle of going in, coming out, going in, coming out, which can be unhealthy. So, again, with all the steps to at least get yourself out of a bad situation, identify it, which recognize it, write it down if you got to, speak it out,
Yeah.
sing it out, be able to describe it specifically of what the situation does to you and for you, mentally, physically, spiritually, all your different senses. Find a better situation. So visualize what would be a better situation for you. Take one small step towards it. Start off with one small step, baby step, whatever you want to call it. After you do that, write out the next 3 steps. So now you took the 1 step. Now I want you to go further with 3. So then you'll know what the next 3 steps
Multiply.
look like. Rinse and repeat. Go through trial and error with this. And then lastly, rinse and repeat. Yes, I know, doing with hair. You know, I got that hair right now. All right. And the last one is
All
just
right,
prevent
Calvin.
yourself from going back. Do not have yourself go
Okay,
back to
that's
where the
clever.
origin of your hopelessness started. Because then that is going to reconfirm confirmation bias that you're in a hopeless situation.
Mm.
So make sure
Ooh,
you
I see
don't.
what you did there.
Yes, you see, look at
Yeah,
that's off of
circle
y'all. We
back.
circle back. That's how
That
we
heat,
do. All right.
that fire.
So now,
Full steps. I'm glad like the last step is visualizing the 2 or 3 steps ahead because I think that may even be what's unique about human beings, our ability to imagine
Right,
the
to do that.
future. And how we do it is actually through storytelling. And that's what I've been learning from studying the neuroscience of storytelling and stories, like
yes,
why we read stories. Like every time we read a story, we may not knowingly be doing this, but subconsciously we're desperately searching for something relatable,
yes,
especially we're
Mm-hmm.
searching for the problem that in the story that the protagonist is trying to solve and seeing how that problem can apply to one of our own problems.
yes.
And we're desperately searching for that every time we read a story.
That's right. There it is. I mean, it's a very important piece and part
Archetype.
when it comes to that. It really is. Everybody loves a good story, and when it's a relatable, if you've never been through that situation, you are vicariously learning through that story how to deal with that situation. So yes,
Exactly.
Potential moves. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
potential moves. Now, the point I wanted to get back to Chris, and then we'll wrap up because we are in there. We are almost 2.5 hours
Are we
into
4 hours
this,
in?
and I'm so grateful to 4 hours. But it is great. I'm just glad. I'm
We
grateful for
came for
everyone that's
it.
here watching, and for those that are still tuned in. I appreciate your time because that's one thing that I know is the most valuable in the world. And when you come here and give your time, I want to make sure I appreciate it. So I appreciate you, Kundan, and I appreciate you, Chris, and I appreciate everyone that's
Yes.
watching.
For
Now,
sure.
Same.
Chris, when it comes to your point, back again when you talk about the whole spiritual side, and yes, we're not going to get deeper into the
Yeah.
fact of where that aligns for you. But the one thing that I
Right.
wanted to add, and I've said it before, I have an acronym that I have for faith, and it helps when it comes to
Okay.
figuring out all of this stuff out. So when we think about faith and how you saying guided by faith, how I see faith in this case is focusing attention internally to heal.
Mm.
Yeah.
So when you are guided by faith, a lot of
Wars.
that is all the words are real spells, y'all, if you don't know.
Wars.
And when you are able to focus your attention internally, so that's within yourself, that has to
Yeah.
do with mind, body, spirit, and all of that,
Oh
you are
my god.
able to
That heat.
ultimately heal yourself and be able to find your way out of either a situation or know where you'll be guided from. You can say it's a
Oh.
universal source, you can say it's Allah, you can say it's Jesus, God, whoever you end up saying that it is. But being able to focus that attention internally to heal,
Yeah.
that's how I see faith. That's how I see it. And I just wanted to throw
That's
that
what
point
the
back out there.
isn't that what helps the crown? Because it's like the transmitter. So like once you
Mm,
align, it's all
Mm.
internal and then it
yeah.
transmits
Mm.
out, right?
Yes.
Or that's my
Yes.
understanding of the chakras, you know. So that's wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Which I and look at, and I'll say
I
this. I'll
didn't
even
think
add on
about it.
top of this
I
too.
really didn't think
Yes.
about it that way. I thought it was like external. But
And
now
see.
that you flipped it that way,
Mm-hmm.
it's like literally the faith is in me.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mhm.
pulling, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking it's like it could be
Mm-hmm.
external. I'm over here trying to look externally, but again, like it's right in front of you. Oh, those wars!
Yes, I'm
Ah,
looking. I'll tell everybody this right now. I'm gonna give everybody another
those
key in a
wars.
life. And I'm not saying I know and I got all the keys. I'm not DJ Khaled, we got the keys. No, I don't got all the keys. But I can tell you this, that what we've been taught about how to approach
When did Nike stop
situations
giving them
and
out?
things within life, I don't know when you did, but how we approach addressing situations and things within life, the best way
Mm,
to address things is to start at the root. Nature shows you that. Where does everything grow from? It doesn't grow externally and
the
then goes
root.
back and grows internally. Everything starts from within and grows out. So any situation that you need to deal with or anything that you want to learn, anything that you want to grow upon, guess what? Growth has to start from within. I'm
Starts
not gonna know
internal.
how I necessarily pair with something until I go within and see that if it works for me. And going within doesn't mean meditating and doing mantras and doing,
Not all the
different
time. Yeah.
visualizations
No,
and
no,
things
no.
of that nature. No,
Yeah.
the going within is your thought process. Going
Mhm.
within is you
Hmm.
stopping to take a moment to smell the roses. That
Hmm.
Mhm.
in those moments, again, present moment, perfect thing to say. Being in the present moment and sitting there with it helps for you to focus that intention internally for you to heal so that everything else that is on the outside becomes additions to why it makes sense for your inner self.
Mhm.
And that's how it's supposed to be built. But we've been told we have to search for everything outside of us. We got to get the money. We got to get the cars. We got to get the men. We got to get the women. We got to get all of this to make ourselves feel happy and fulfilled. But guess what? That starts from within because we're always going to be searching for the new iPhone, always going to be searching for the new and best thing because we know how technology and things are nowadays. They make it made so flimsy to a point that you always got to continue to buy the new next update or the new next laptop and the new next car and all of this. You're not going to
Mhm.
have the same thing forever. You can maintain it as much as you want, but it's not going to be there forever. So knowing the fact that everything else outside of that is an addition. And that's what I also broke down the word joy. Not only relying on
Mhm.
people to be your joy, but you be your own joy so that everything outside of that becomes an addition atop of that joy. So with
That's why
with
it's
all of this,
enjoy, right?
enjoy, because I get it from two ways. Enjoy is in
Mm,
yourself, but also be careful on
enjoy.
how you say enjoy, because you can end your joy
Enjoy.
if you don't do it in within yourself.
Uh,
I love that, Kundan. I love that
Ah,
flip. I love that flip too, Kundan.
words.
Love
We're
it.
getting
yeah,
a two for
Enjoy,
tonight. What's the word and word?
bruh.
yeah.
It's
I like that you also gave the example
That's
of
a big celebration.
how accessing
Two
something
and one.
inner doesn't always have to be spiritual, like you were saying.
mm-hmm,
I like it because it can also be because not everyone has. Some people are atheists or secular or whatever or agnostic, and so they may not believe in these things, but they can still access that inner strength.
mm-hmm,
So and that inner creativity. So I referenced earlier about feeling complete, right?
mm-hmm.
And I said you can do sky gazing to do that, right?
Yes,
There are other practices like just sitting in silence even. But the funny thing is, I said that if you access that completion, you become creative, right?
yes.
But here's the funny thing: you can also reverse engineer. So sometimes if you're stuck in something,
Mm-hmm.
right, in trying to solve this particular problem, sometimes it helps to forget about the problem and do something else that's not related to the problem, but something creative that you enjoy, like drawing or dance or music. And at some point, you will indirectly
Yes.
get in touch with that sense of completion, and that's the flow experience, right? That's when you get into flow, and that flow is actually coming from that sense of completion. So you're reverse engineering that, and then you can use that as a jumping off point later
Mm-hmm.
to have the creativity to solve your problem.
Exactly. Again,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
many ways, and look
Mhm.
at there's again having multiple options to be able to leave out of a situation to then figure out how that can actually help your situation.
Hmm.
That's why taking breaks
Exactly.
are so vital with stuff, because when you
Hmm.
break away from something,
Necessary.
you're able to build up, so when you come right
Mhm.
back to it, you either have more energy, even sometimes might even maintain the same energy to be able to tackle whatever it is. So
Hmm.
that's a great example. I'm glad that it's taken this around to this. This has definitely been a very, I mean, a lot of ours is always engaging, but this has definitely been to a point where it's very engaging because the wheels have kept on turning, y'all. But for this, y'all,
Hmm.
um, last thoughts on any of the topics in whole,
We have
and
so many. I
if
don't
there's
remember.
anything, if anything, you want to add and leave to the folks, please add it. So for you, Chris, there's the current events, we have safety versus risk, and lastly, we've been talking about is finding options in a hopeless situation. Anything that has got you that you want to add to or leave the people with, please so now, and then I'll wrap up, and that will be the celebration episode and things as well with this one.
I feel like if you value your safety, then you will use proper risk analysis. And when you're able to make those kind of decisions, you will come to realize you will never be hopeless because you have the tools to find options. And that's where I'm at. I tried to tie all the bows together.
Fire. What you got, Kundan?
That was my
Yeah,
summary.
like definitely boundaries, have learn how to stand up for yourself in certain situations, have boundaries for your safety, uh, so that you can take, the proper calculated risk, like, you know, and boundaries also include like boundaries around even yourself, around how, what actions and how much you're willing to exert yourself,
Yeah.
right? I feel like we are living in a system that's overproductive or like emphasizes productivity a little bit too much, sometimes even over productivity over actual creativity.
Yes.
So actually have uh, not just a discipline of work, but even a discipline of rest so that
Yes.
you can take those breaks like you mentioned. I think that's part of what creates safety so that you can have the options to take those calculated risk.
Beautiful. Yes, yes. And yeah, shouts out to both of y'all sticking around, adding, and also having some, like I said, grade A when it comes to these wrap ups. Now,
Hmm.
thank you to everyone again. It's been here, been rocking, and it's been on here. To now wrap up with the show and to be out. When it comes to current events, please take the time to be and get informed on what's going on around you so that you know how to properly set yourself up to get you in a safety spot and be able to calculate those risks to help you come up with a plan for whatever future you have. So please stay tuned into what's going on around you. Now, when it comes to safety and risk, know that they play off of each other and that ultimately anything that you are doing in life, you're going to be taking a risk. And the way
Hmm.
for you to make it more safer into your advantage is to be able to balance that and to create a space that helps to improve that decision making skill, which again, the key word is a calculated risk, so
Mm-hmm.
that you'll know
Hmm.
what you're going to end up doing and be able to grow into a better version of yourself. And lastly, when it comes to finding options in a hopeless situation, guess what? You got options. So your situation is not
Hmm.
hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts
Hmm.
here. Again, a lot of things all starts with the mindset. If you're able to flip the mindset into a growth mindset, evaluate and visualize better situations for yourself, you're able to creatively come up and also logically come up with options that are on the table for you to take. And it is openly up to you to take those options. And if you don't, that is where you create this hopelessness because of the fact that you create the fear mindset and you're not,
Hmm.
and you just say that it's hopeless. There is no possibilities. When again, in the word impossible, is I'm possible. It's up to you how you see the options. But
Hmm.
with that, y'all, this has been another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, season 2, episode 23. 23. I said D, the 23. Again, shouts out to everybody. Thank you for the celebration. It's been 1 year that we've done this, and we're going to continue to give more and continue to provide more. So please continue to come back and share. Shouts out again to Kundan. Shouts out to Chris. And shouts out to those who are watching now and will watch later, Instagram or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for your boy because I know you want some more videos, but you may not want to always hear my voice. So we have wonderful people's voices down here. We are on a road to 1,000 subscribers. We are on our way there. So please join the community because over here we are building. And with that, y'all, peace and one love. I've been your brother Avis. This has been Kundan. This has been Chris. And we will catch you next Wednesday for another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays. Other than that, peace, one love, and until next time, we are out.
All right. Bye.